We're going up to Scotland in a car. Specifically, we're going to Edinburgh. And we're not slowing until we've gone pretty far and concluded all the reasons for us heading there. And we are gonna hear the poetry of Scott and old Robbie, and probably drink a dram or three. And we are gonna meet some brilliant writers, and maybe they'll provide us with the answers and insights, so we can finally write something good.
Like with a good ending.
So, Tommy.
Yeah.
We're off up to Scotland for our Edinburgh...
Are we not doing...
Can't do that,
right,
Tom.
Okay.
Can't do that. For our Edinburgh Odyssey. And I just asked you a question. I thought that might be sort of an interesting starting point. What level of knowledge we're at the beginning of this trip. And then we can compare that later to the level of knowledge at the end of the trip.
So our depth of knowledge of Scottish literature,
yeah,
and the history and the personality of Scottish literature.
Exactly. Who are the people? What's it all about? Is there like a thread that runs through a lot of it? Yeah. So, Tommy, where do you sit? What's your level of knowledge currently?
Well, I mean, zero. See, I mean, would be like in the grand scheme of things, probably would be a relatively...
Well, that's quite a nice place to start, isn't it? You've got so far to go.
Yeah, I can only learn stuff.
Yeah. I think most of my knowledge is limited to contemporary writers. The Ians, Ian Rankin, Ian Banks, Irving Welsh, a bit of that.
Yeah.
But then I just remembered that my favourite English teacher was Scottish.
Right.
And she forced us to look at some Robbie Burns.
Of course, yeah.
She loved Robbie Burns, and it was like her true love. And so she would get us to read it. And have you ever come across Tam O'Shanter? Have you ever read or heard Tam O'Shanter?
I don't think so, no.
Or any Robbie Burns?
I remember trying to read some Robbie Burns and not really understanding
no.
the words, I think, as much as anything.
Yeah. A lot of the words are quite different, aren't they? But, I've got like a deep love of Tam O'Shanter, which I might try and sort of bring you in on, Tom.
Right, okay.
During this weekend. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, give it a go. We'll give it a go.
Excellent. Yeah, it's a wonderful...
Once I've had 3 or 4 haggises down my neck.
That's
I'll
it,
do anything.
exactly. And a few pints as well. He was not averse to a bit of drinking, was he? I mean, Tam O'Shanter is effectively a poem about drinking and the joys of getting together with your pals. Look, there's the proof that we're going to Edinburgh.
Yeah.
Hello and broad day for the Failing Writers podcast, sponsored by Scrivener, where the day will be blethering about the muckle titans of Scots literature. There'll be tales of sair swats and bonny een-watering poetry. Come with us and take a deep swally frae the Whale of Scotland. How's that?
I don't think anyone in Scotland is going to have a clue that you're not Scottish. That's perfect.
Twat.
Hello and welcome back to the Failing Writers podcast. And don't worry, we will mostly be sticking to English in this podcast, seeing as though, we are actually English.
Yeah, we will. However...
Oh God, you're going to do your Scottish accent again, aren't you?
No, laddie, no. It's just that... No, come on. In this episode, it is a great big celebration of Scotland and its literary titans.
It is.
And it is genuinely quite hard discussing them without relishing the beauty of the accent and the Scots language itself.
That's true.
Which we discuss a little bit later on. Mm-hmm. So I am claiming the right from here, right now, to be able to enjoy that unapologetically.
Okay.
On occasion.
But not too often.
Not too often, John, I promise.
Oh, God.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, before we hit the road, we do need to thank our wonderful sponsor, Scrivener.
Yes, we absolutely should, because Scrivener have basically enabled us to continue this podcast. And wouldn't a lovely way of thanking them be to buy their frankly indispensable writing software? Wouldn't that be nice?
Yes, it would. It would. And not only would that be a lovely gift to us and to Scrivener, it will also be an amazing gift to you, because Scrivener genuinely makes writing your book easier. And on top of all that, we have a code for you.
We do.
That will get you 20% off.
Yes, we do. And all you have to do is go to literatureandlatte.com and use the code
failing.
Is that really all they have to do, John?
That is literally it.
That is like next to nothing, that, isn't it? Anyone could do that.
Exactly. Dead easy.
So you don't have to send like a stamped addressed envelope or anything to them, or do any weird initiation rites, need to know or be a famous celebrity to get the code? You just
anyone literally just have to be listening to this.
Which they already are, aren't they? So let's take that one off. Anyway, well, thank you, Scrivener. Incredible.
Thank you very much.
So, John, as we were saying, we've been on a wee Stradivague, haven't we?
Are you trying to sneak a bit of Scottish in again?
No.
Okay, good. Continue, Tom. Sorry.
Yes, so as mentioned in the previous episode, we popped up to Scotland to meet some writers, visit some literary haunts.
And partake of some Scottish poetry.
Yes, nice euphemism for whiskey there, John.
Well, it'd be rude not to, wouldn't it? While you're up there. But we did. We also had some very nice beers as well, didn't we? It wasn't just whiskey.
Yes, but that technically was work, wasn't it? That was part of the podcast because as part of our adventures north of the border, we went on a literary pub tour around Ulrike herself, the beautiful city of Edinburgh, which is where we spent our eduformative weekend. That's educational and informative, John, in one word. I put it all in one word.
It's beautiful. Portmanteau. And one of our early ports of call was a lovely little place, Makars Court, where, like, underneath your feet, it's almost like a sort of sunset boulevard of poets.
Yeah, it's colder. Yeah.
Memorialised in the stone slabs. But it's also the location of the Writers' Museum, dedicated to the three people who are generally considered the great titans of Scottish literature. Robbie Burns, Sir Walter Scott, and of course...
The Proclaimers.
No, not the Proclaimers, Thomas. Robert Louis Stevenson.
Right, yes. And we begin in the Robbie Burns section. Are we allowed to call him Robbie Burns? Or is that just for the native? Do we have to call him Robbie? Or
Mate, let's stick to Robbie for now, shall we?
Okay, or we could be more formal. So, John, what do we know about Mr. Burns?
Okay. Well, Robert Burns was born in 1759 on the 25th of January, which coincidentally happens to be Burns Night.
That is a mental coincidence, that, isn't it?
Isn't it?
When you think about it, how could that be the same? It's up there with Jesus being born at Christmas, isn't it?
It really is, yeah.
And Mark Hamill born on the 4th of May. It's all the same stuff, coincidence.
If you say so. Yeah, because if you didn't already know, Burns Night is the annual night of Scottish cultural heritage, celebrated across the world.
Yeah, what you actually mean to say is it's the universal excuse to have a proper good old-fashioned piss-up, isn't it? It's like, oh, what's that? Oh, it's Burns Night, is it? Oh, yeah, well, it's all about Scotland and poetry. Oh, is it? God, boring. I'm not having any of that. No, thanks, mate. Sorry, you do what? Oh, it's a big party where you just sit around eating haggis and drinking whiskey. Oh, yeah. Oh, Scotland forever, I'm in.
Yeah,
definitely.
I think, it is. You're right. It's an excuse. But I feel like Burns would be quite flattered.
Yeah.
But of course, a Burns night is not complete without someone piping in the haggis, which Tom is now going to demonstrate. Go for it, Tom.
No.
What's up, man?
I absolutely hate bagpipes.
You can't say that.
I can't stand them, genuinely.
It's
probably second only to a classroom full of 8-year-olds trying to play recorders. I can't bear it.
Mate, you know you're not supposed to put your ear to the actual pipe itself.
No, it's the whole thing. No.
Okay, well, do you know what I'm going to ask you to do instead then, if you can't provide the bagpipes?
I probably will do anything because it can't be any worse than that.
I think you should give us the first stanza, or maybe a couple of stanzas of Burns addressed to a haggis. Go on.
Oh, okay. Well, I would imagine, as people have already heard my amazing grasp of the Scottish accent,
it's going to be quite painful.
Not to mention my fluency in Scots. I think that'll be. And it's going to be a real treat. This,
of course
isn't it?
It is. Of course it is. And a big good luck to you, Tom.
Thank you. Fair for your honest, soncy face, great chieftain o' the pudding race, aboon them I take your place, paints, tripe or therm, weel are you worthy of a grace as lang's as my arm. The groaning trencher there you fill, your hoodies like a distant hill, your pin would help to mend the mill in time of need, while through your pores the dews distill like amber bead.
That wasn't bad, Tom.
It wasn't as bad as it could have been, that, was it?
No, that was actually quite nice. I mean, you got the flavour, definitely.
I think you can't help it with that. Do you not think? It flows and it wanders and flows.
Yeah. you can't back off the accent, can you? Really, you got to go for
Yeah,
it.
no,
even
you
if
can't.
You are
You can't.
of another country. But I love that. It's just great. That's a brilliant line, isn't it? When he's describing the plump juiciness of the haggis. He says, "Your herdies, i.e., your buttocks, like a distant hill." It's just lovely, and personifying it. Calling it a great chieftain, a clan leader that's worth saying a very long grace over.
Yeah,
I just think it's.
It is, like I said, it's just
quality.
a lovely
Quality
way
is
of
what it
words,
is.
isn't it? And you can see why he's so popular, because it's that thing. It's not only just playful and it's fun. There's a funness to it, but it does have that deeply nationalist. Like you say, it can't help but be Scottish and present it in that way. It is nationalistic and proud as well. And there's a bit further on, isn't there, about where he goes on to mock France and Spain's Ponzi food, which, I mean, timeless, isn't it, in terms of the culture? You think, how little's that? How's that not changed over however many 100 years? It's crazy.
Yeah. So, tell you what, Tommy, shall we now go to the Writers' Museum?
Like right now, because we're doing the podcast, so I don't know if we should.
Yeah.
How do we?
Via the medium of memory.
Okay. And we do that how?
Simply by looking off into the distance with a quizzical expression.
I can do that.
Would you want to start at the top and work you down, or do you want to...
I want to go Bard first. I don't really know anything about him, so I'm hoping that there'll be a bit of... look at that. Life and Times.
It's funny, you read eldest of 7 children and you think, wow. Then you realise just how completely normal that was for 1759. That's
quite a low number, to be fair.
Yeah.
So, farming stock.
Yeah, I wonder what the crack was with saying, I'm not going to be growing things and being a market gardener. Yeah. I'm going to go and be a poet, Dad.
Yeah, but that went down well. I feel like he probably got a lot more out of Tristram Shandy than he did the Manual of Religious Belief as well.
I don't know if I've heard of the Manual of Religious Belief, but probably in terms of his reading material that we can relate to, probably more that.
His inspiration,
It seems that he was knocking around with a few different ladies.
Oh, I see.
And then he's kind of getting married, but then isn't, I like the line here, re-establishment of status as a single man. It's quite a passive way of putting it. It's a very passive way of putting it. And he thought about moving to Jamaica, but decided to publish some poems first.
I think that was to get away from the scandals.
I don't know. And then in 1787, published 22 poems, including Address to a Haggis. 3,000 copies printed.
Wow.
So who would have thought then, in 1787, that would become such an anthem?
Do you think that's one of the most recited poems?
Ever, full stop.
In the English language, anyway. English stroke.
I think it's probably Incy Wincy Spider. But that would be a close second or third, I would imagine.
Probably.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm bored of reading now. Let's go and actually look at some things.
Okay.
We've not got long till it shuts.
That's true, yeah.
I love the things like this where it's they've got a little drinking vessel that's from an inn, reputed. It's like, is it just a little fairy tale that, he was here once and slept in this bed and drank out of this very cup.
He's quite a good-looking fella. You can see why he was a bit of a winner with the ladies.
Yeah.
Those sideburns.
Well, those are grand, aren't they?
Yeah.
An achievement in themselves. Not for the first time, I've exited the room quite a long time ahead of John, as he looks at stuff for far too long. Quite frustrating, but he's here now. I feel like we may be people with different museum paces.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, you see, he was a people's poet, wasn't he?
Right.
Burns was aware of the social distinctions.
So, in touch with the common folk.
Yeah. His performance must be strongly tinctured with his unpolished, rustic way of life.
Just a nice way of saying he's a bit of a rough bugger.
Yeah, basically. Looks quite smart in all the pictures, doesn't he? Obviously smartened up a bit. Whoa. He died at the age of 37. Mm. Buried in St Michael's Churchyard in Dumfries with full military honour. So he was quite something when he died then.
There's a plaster cast of his actual head, his skull.
Oh my God.
So
he's got no face.
That's just the top of his head.
Yeah. Sorry. So he did have the face.
I believe so, yeah.
So that's all well and good, John, but wouldn't it be nice if we could hear some Burns poetry done properly?
Well, rather than in your dodgy Scottish accent.
Yeah. Although I think there will be a certain amount of Scottish people listening going, John, actually, I'm going to write in and say Tom's accent was amazingly accurate. It was like, Robbie Burns was here with us.
Is that right?
Yeah. Although I will concede it would be quite nice to hear it done by some proper Scottish actor, I would say.
Yes, it would. And luckily, we met someone on our travels, didn't we, who fits that bill perfectly.
We did. As we said earlier, as part of our adventures in Edinburgh, we went on a literary pub tour where we were shown around some of the city's historical watering holes by two fellas who did a brilliant job of bringing the whole poetic side of Edinburgh to life.
Yeah. And then after that, we approached one of them, a lovely chap called Mike Daviot, who was kind enough to share some of his extensive knowledge, actually, of the great Scottish writers, as well as some brilliant readings as well.
Yeah, and I think when we first contacted him, we thought we were probably going to have like a quick 5-minute chat about the tour. And then we soon worked out he was like an absolute performing encyclopedia of Scottish poetry knowledge.
Yeah, he knows his onions, definitely.
Such a treat to chat to for people like us that kind of love language, and we got into all kinds of stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, here's Mike, who we kicked off with a chat about the enduring charm of Robbie Burns.
So, it's okay for you to call him Robbie, then, have we established that, have we?
Yeah. So, Mike, you were one of the actors that navigated us around some literary spots in Edinburgh very recently.
Yes.
But you seemed to me to have a genuinely good knowledge of Scottish writers, particularly the great titans of Scottish literature, Burns, Scott, and Stevenson.
Or indeed, John, he didn't have a clue what he was doing. He's just a brilliant actor.
No, to be fair to me, I'm a bibliomane. I've been what I would call even a chronic reader since being a teenager.
I got that.
I just read a lot. I love language. I love words. That's what it boils down to.
Yeah.
And my first love was poetry, and that's really why I got into acting, because I wanted to be able to speak beautiful language. And I was very lucky that very early on I got exposed to, because no middle-class people in Scotland speak Scots anymore. I think I said that to you at the time. When I started acting in 1983, it was still the case that a lot of Scots language theatre was done in Scotland.
Is that no longer the case?
No, not at all.
So why is that fallen out of favour? Is it just that it's difficult for audiences to understand, so it doesn't appeal? Or?
Because middle-class people don't speak Scots anymore.
Yeah.
And the middle class, sadly, are still the main theatre audience.
So give us a little taste of what people can look forward to on the literary pub tour.
Okay.
Maybe if we sort of do this chronologically. So I was going to ask you, like starting with Robbie, why was Robert Burns so popular? What was the key to his longevity, do you think?
Gosh, that's very interesting. He's massively popular abroad. He's hugely popular in Russia.
Really?
Right.
He's almost up there with Pushkin in Russia,
Wow.
Wow. I think it's his political element, a fig for those by law defended, all that kind of stuff, the people at the top who think they can get away with anything. Does that sound familiar? Because they're in a position of extreme power.
Yeah, he's writing for the everyman, isn't he? That's got to be good. He's like the people's poet.
Yeah, and also, he drew on folk background, folklore, and also just the everyday lives of people. And, people know Tia Haggis and all that stuff. And there's Tia Moose, wee sneakit coward and timorous beastie, just nice, almost like John Clare territory, very nature-based and realistic.
Yeah,
but also, and this is one of my slight bugbears with Burns, because I'm not the world's biggest Burns fan. I'm more of a Stevensonian, as you know. He does compromise the language, because he knew that he was also, he kind of kicked off in a big way very early on, and he got an audience down south, and he knew that he was writing also for an English audience.
Right. Yes. So he was going easy on people.
So what you're saying is, even 300 years ago, he was dumbing it down for the audience.
Yes, and wanting a bigger audience, wanting a bigger reach, more people to buy his books.
See, that just sounds clever to me.
Yeah, absolutely. But whereas in his native tongue, I like Stevenson's Scots poetry because it's spoken Scots. What Burns does, and I've got a wee bit of Tam O'Shanter here if you want.
Yes, definitely.
Burns would have used for bright and light, which is what he writes as a rhyme scheme at one point in Tam O'Shanter. In Scots of the period, it would have been bricht and licht, because GH usually transliterates to CH in Scots. But Burns writes bright and light. And he writes, remember I mentioned on the tour that OW transliterates to OU? So hour becomes ur and, that kind of thing. So power becomes poor and, but he does power. He does, he kind of compromises it a little bit.
Yeah,
I mean, it's still wonderful writing,
Yeah.
Especially, I think, Tam O'Shanter.
Yeah, I love that poem. It's definitely one of my favourites. It's just a great story as well.
It's a wonderful Scots yarn,
Weirdly relatable as well.
Of course it is.
You're very much a universal. All right, yeah, okay. And trying to get home after a big night out.
And seeing things in the shadows and, absolutely, yeah.
So I'm gonna hit pause here and just interject, because Mike's about to read an extract of Tam O'Shanter, but before he gets stuck in, I think it's worth mentioning just a couple of things for people who aren't familiar with the poem, right? So Tam O'Shanter kicks off with a lovely and very funny description of what it might be like to get drunk with your friends and forget all about the fact that you've actually still got to get home, and all with a kind of sympathetic nod to Tam's poor wife, who has warned Tam many times about staying out on the lash. Yeah, then with Tam on his way in a storm, riding his horse Maggie, the poem takes a darker turn as he arrives at Kirk Alloway, a spooky church that he has to pass on his way home, and where he finds a disturbing scene. A very disturbing scene, because there's this dance in full swing, but it's no ordinary dance. It turns out it's a bunch of witches and warlocks carousing around a fire with the devil sitting there in the guise of a great black dog, a towsy tyke. Oh, and finally, just so you know, there are quite a few names for booze in the poem as well. There's loads of words for booze. There's loads. There's there's Nappy, which is like a strong ale. John Barleycorn, obviously barley that you make beer and whiskey from. Mm-hmm. Tippany, Usquaba and Swats. Usquaba, I think it is. Thank you. Tippany, Usquaba and Swats. Swats. All right, well, you could have said that the first time and you corrected me about the other one, couldn't you? Tippany, Usquaba and Swats, which were all words for various forms of alcohol. So bear that in mind too. But yeah, let's get back to Mike.
Obviously, he's been out, he's got pissed, he's on his way home, riding home through a horrendous storm, and the lightnings flash from pole to pole, near and more near the thunders roll, when glimmering through the groaning trees, Kirk Alloway seemed in a bleeze. Through Ilka Bore the beams were glancing, and loud resounded mirth and dancing. Inspiring bold John Barleycorn, what dangers thou canst make us scorn. With Tippany we fear nae evil, with Usquaba we'll face the devil. The swats say reamed in Tammy's noddle, fair play he cared na deals a boddle. But Maggie stood richt sair astonished, till by the heel and hand admonished, she ventured forward on the light. And wow, Tam saw an unca sight, warlocks and witches in a dance. Nae cotillion brent frae France, but hornpipes, jigs, strathspeys and reels put life and metal in their heels. A winnock bunter in the east, there sat old Nick, in shape o' beast, a towsy tyke, black, grim and large. To gie them music was his charge. He screwed the pipes and got them scurrel, till roof and rafters all did dirl. Coffins stood round like open presses, that shawed the dead in their last dresses, and by some devilish cantrip sleight, each in its cauld hand held a light, by which heroic Tam was able to note upon the hardy table a murderer's banes in gibbet airns, 2 span lang wee unchristened bairns, a thief new cutted frae a rape, wi' his last gasp his gab did gape, 5 tomahawks wi' blood red rusted, 5 scimitars wi' murder crusted, a garter which a babe had strangled, a knife a father's throat had mangled, whom his ain son no life bereft, the grey hairs yet stuck to the heft. 3 lawyers' tongues turned inside out, wi' lies seemed like a beggar's clout. 3 priests' hearts, rotten black as muck, lay stinking vile in every nook.
Brilliant.
Beautifully read.
Those last 3 lines aren't in many versions.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were censored because, of course,
because of the
priests. And yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
the priests and the
makes
lawyers.
sense.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's real Burns lashing out at
the establishment,
the folk in power.
So that beautifully read extract takes us to about 2/3 of the way through the poem, at which point the dance gets like more and more furious until Tam spies a particularly beautiful young witch in a very short skirt or cutty sark, and getting a bit carried away watching her, twerking. He can't help himself. He shouts suddenly, "Well done, cutty sark!" and reveals his hiding place to the entire unholy assembly, who obviously at that point turn around, see Tam, and start pegging it towards him as bees bizz out with angry fake.
Yeah, and basically at that point it turns into a chase scene where Tam's desperately trying to outrun this gaggle of demons.
Yeah, and we'll leave you there, dear listener, to find out what happens for yourself, but it is totally worth a read. But yeah, I wanted to ask you, Tom, because we started this episode with a mention of your Scottish namesake. What did you think of the poem? I'm assuming you read it. I gave you some homework. I asked you to read it. Did you quite enjoy it?
I do. It's firstly, it's enjoyable reading it in that kind of native tongue and then trying to decode it and translate it. That's actually
quite a fun bit, yeah.
Really good fun. And I think that kind of almost forces you to dig into it a bit as well, doesn't it? While you're doing that, you can't help but kind of you're sort of taking it to bits and putting it back together again.
Yeah, you can't just kind of scan over it, can you? That's
no, you need to find out what's actually going on, otherwise you just miss bits. I don't know, part of me thinks, was it just really a lot easier writing stuff back then because so much stuff hadn't been written yet?
Right.
So you could just go, I'll just write a poem about a bloke coming home from the pub and he meets some witches and stuff.
So easier to be original.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's got it on easy mode. So, yeah, not that impressed, really. I think I'd like to see him come into the modern world and write something that hasn't been written.
Well, that's true. Yeah. But overall, it sounds like you quite enjoyed it.
I did enjoy it. How can you not enjoy that?
Yeah.
Just purely for the...
It's just a lovely story, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just a rollicking story.
I like the... there's like he finds this nice balance, I think. Like towards the end, you get the impression it's almost sort of mock preachy. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you shouldn't...
Yeah.
You shouldn't misbehave. You shouldn't drink too much. But in a way, I think...
With a wink to camera?
I think that's exactly... He's actually very generous towards real people, isn't he? He's very sympathetic to the flaws of mankind and the woes of womankind as well. But the language, again, coming back to the language, it is just really joyful. There's a bit... I'm just going to do a tiny bit at the beginning because it's one of my favourite little bits. While we sit boozing at the nappy and getting foo and unco happy, we think now on the lang Scots miles, the mosses, waters, slaps and stiles that lie between us and our hame, where sits our sulky, sullen dame, gathering her brows like gathering storm, nursing her wrath to keep it warm. O Tam, hadst thou but been sae wise as ta'en thy ain wife Kate's advice, she told thee well thou was a skellum, a blithering, blustering, drunken blellum. Just what brilliant words. I love that.
It is, isn't it? But also
skellums and blellums. And
timeless themes.
Yeah.
Timeless themes.
Yeah, exactly that. But you almost don't need to know what the words specifically are. You can totally work it out, can't you? You know what drunken blellum is. It's fine. Yeah, I got that.
Yeah.
But yeah, reading about Burns, he was an interesting character because he was sort of a left-wing radical on the one hand, and you can see that in his, obviously in his poetry. He has concerns for the plight of the poor, but on the other hand, he's also in the public eye, and he's got to walk that line between being authentic to what he believes and also not pissing off his patrons and his employers.
Yeah, fitting in with society as it stands as well.
It's a really hard line to walk, isn't it? But he manages to do it very nicely.
Right, well, let's have a little dip back into Mike's bit now, because he's got more good stuff to say about poetry, pubs, and the Scots language.
But my goodness, I mean, for all that I said about you heard about the right and light and stuff.
Yeah.
But there's an awful lot of dialect, like words in there. I mean,
absolutely.
I've got. If anybody wants an edition of Burns, I think this is the best to have. It's the Canongate Press, the Edinburgh company.
Yeah.
They produce most of the Scots stuff. And the thing is, they do a fantastic glossary, but they do it right down the side of the page.
Yeah. So you don't have to
with
be
you every
looking
step
up
of the way.
In the back constantly.
Yeah.
Very
So
good.
if you want to relish it but don't have much Scots, you can work it out pretty quickly. Yeah.
But yeah, interestingly, Robert Louis Stevenson has a poem about walking home drunk as well, doesn't he, in Underwood?
Oh,
it seems
a
like
mile and a bit like a mile or two.
Yeah.
It's one of my favourite poems.
it's a bit of a theme, isn't it?
Well, it is, getting pissed and staggering home. Absolutely, yes. I mean, we live in a cold part of the world, you know. I mean,
Is that what it is?
Yeah, and also, I mean, the pub, as in Ireland, is the great place for socialisation, but it's more than that. It's the place, or used to be. And still was when I was young. It's the place for conversation and debate and almost self-education. I mean, I genuinely say to people that I left school with almost nothing. I was a complete dunce. I was a dreamer. I was little skinny sort of nobody. And I didn't really learn anything. I crammed all my learning immediately post-school between about 17 and 22. And
when you got to choose what you could learn.
Absolutely. But I did a lot of my learning in old-fashioned Scottish pubs, talking to working class autodidacts.
Right. The University of Life.
Yeah, but not to be scorned, because, you know, I would sit in a pub for 5 hours talking to these guys, and literally we would talk about everything from philosophy to football. And many of these people were far more widely read than any university person, because they'd selected their own syllabuses.
Yeah.
And because they'd done that, and I know this too, because I'm mostly self-taught, when you self-select, you devour everything with great passion.
Yeah,
the pub was a remarkable place, and it also maybe even has got an old hint of the hedge school or something like that. You know, you could sit round the fire and learn, and not just hear stories, but actually learn.
And it would seem a lot of these poets, that is where they did their learning.
Yeah. Well, I mean, drink is the whole Celtic temperament is inclined to drink. Now, it can't be just to do with the weather, but Stevenson, yes, he died of all kinds of systemic horrors, TB probably, but other stuff as well. But he also smoked and drank himself to death. You know, he chain smoked roll-ups.
Right.
And he loved his whiskey and he loved his red wine.
Right.
You know.
Just a rock and roll star of a different generation, isn't it?
Yeah. He didn't just die of a weak system, you know.
How do you think, obviously with the literary pub tours that you do, and we were talking about dumbing down and what have you, and these poems in the Scots language are relatively hard to digest for someone native from these isles. A lot of the people on the tours are from America and all over the shop. Do they just walk around in general confusion or
mystified? Absolutely mystified. That's why in the first bit I chuck in that means she looked as bright as a new pin. That means she kept her house spick and span.
Yeah, you were very good at that. You were constantly like bringing out certain words and telling us what they were, and then you do it, and it was like, oh yeah, that all. Yeah, and it felt like you were monitoring the group for glassy eyes or interest.
Because that's not in the script. And otherwise, you're not going
to stay engaged, are you? Yeah.
And you're gonna lose them. I mean, if incomprehension is your starting point,
you're
not going to get very far, are you? So no, it's very tricky because we've lost the vocabulary. You know, I mean, a lot of the words are obvious, like bricht and licht for bright and light. You know, and a lot of it's quite straightforward. But there is this is one of the proofs that Scots is a language unto itself. You know the rules. It has to have a unique vocabulary and unique grammatic structures. You know, that kind of thing. Scots has all that, and the more you look into Scots, there's a gigantic vocabulary of words that are unique to Scots and have no place in English at all.
Will it get another foothold, another renaissance, because things like that then become sought after by being different and historical, or will it just drift away and vanish? Which, you know, that's the nature of language to some extent, but it is interesting to...
It's the nature of language. It's also the nature of the modern world. You know, I mean, we're so...
Yeah, everything's so joined up that it dilutes everything.
Yes. Language now changes extraordinarily quickly. You know, a change that would have taken decades pre-internet, pre-radio, now happens almost overnight.
Well, my kids use a lot of just like pure Americanisms, and that's very much just a kind of TikTok thing, I think. But interestingly, a lot of those Americanisms that you get annoyed about, and everyone does, are often actually
Old English.
You want to be historical,
absolutely. No, very
back
much
here
so.
anyway. So it's really hard, isn't it, to get your head around whether you're being a stick in the mud about the whole thing, or whether something is worth protecting. Because language is it's constantly evolving. It's liquid. It's not some set in. We've tried to set it in stone, and it doesn't work. It can't be tamed.
Yeah. It all changes. It all shifts. And I don't think we shouldn't be like l'Académie Française, and try to preserve the language in aspic. I mean, you have to allow it to grow and change. But Scots is so rich. I just think it's a shame if it's fading away. But I may say that Stevenson wrote a poem in the 1890s, Far yon Tanang the years to be, and it's about this imagining if somebody in 100 years' time will be able to read what he's written in Scots, because he thinks that the language is dying out.
Wow, interesting.
Right. So, prescient, but maybe a little bit too soon. But the great thing is, even if you haven't got a clue what's going on, it sounds lovely.
It does.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it does.
It's beautiful.
Well, there we go. Mike confirming that some of his best learning takes place in the pub.
Which I see that as complete vindication for us signing up for the literary pub tour as part of our weekend.
Definitely.
That was an important thing to do, wasn't it?
And it was great as well. It was very beautifully acted by Mike and his partner in crime, Dewi Wynne-Jones.
You made a pass at me. Control yourself. What I was trying to get over was that platonic love inspired some of Burns' greatest works. None more famous than A Fond Kiss. Would you like to do the honours, Mr. Cart? A Fond Kiss?
Oh,
A Fond Kiss.
What made it really good, other than obviously being able to get a few beers along the way,
that was good. Yeah.
Was that there is something special about being out and about in the city, like especially in the dark, and you stood in the actual historic places that are being talked about. So when they're talking about people being hanged on the gallows, we were stood where they were. And like you said before, outside the Writers' Museum, there's all the engravings on the flagstones about the famous poets and writers and everything.
And Robbie Burns, I think he stayed somewhere. He lived right in Makars Court, didn't he, somewhere?
Right, yes. Yeah. So it's not like you're even just hearing about the history. You're touching it. As a lover of history, language and beer, it ticks a lot of boxes for me, I think, I must admit.
That is a lot of ticks. Like we said before, we definitely recommend it. And we'll leave a link in the show notes to our tour if you're ever over that way. And also, talking there with Mike, you floated a question, Tommy, about whether Scots can make a comeback or whether it will kind of wither away.
Yeah.
Well, in the news this week, weirdly, there was an article saying that from St Andrew's Day, Gaelic and Scots will be recognised as official languages in Scotland. And apparently, over the last decade, the number of people in Scotland who have some Scots skills has nearly increased fivefold over the last decade.
Well, there, it sounds like the revival's on, John.
It does indeed, yeah.
And to think that is all down to us and our little weekend away in Edinburgh. That's amazing, isn't it?
That is just the power we wield, my friend.
Brilliant. Well, you're welcome, everyone. That was Robert Burns. Popular because he talks to food using funny words. I think that's probably a fair, educated summation of the situation, isn't it? But let's move on to another titan of the Scottish literary scene, Robbie Louis Stevenson.
I think they just call him Robert, actually, Tom.
But he's got why is he Robert and why is one...
Funnily enough, RLS came up several times during our conversation with Michael Peterson earlier in the day, didn't he?
Yes, he did. Partly because he appears as a ghostly character in his novel Muckle Flugger, doesn't he?
He does.
But also because there are one or two strange connections between Peterson and Stevenson.
Do you know the family of Robert Louis Stevenson? His family for 3 generations above him were lighthouse engineers and designers. And he was expected to go into the lighthouse engineering profession. Of course, he gave it up for that dilettante profession of writing, which his parents said was never going to work out, especially because he was trying to write adventure stories like Treasure Island. He was no Walter Scott in their eyes, who they had formed a friendship with at that point in time. And of course, that doesn't happen. Stevenson becomes the name in Scotland that we associate first and foremost with, literary talent. He's, still part of the education system here. He's, I believe, still the 26th most translated writer in the world, just after Charles Dickens at 25. So he proved his family wrong, much to their chagrin in a certain sense. And now when we think of Stevenson, we think of him. But he was very much...
loss to the lighthouse community.
Community.
What would have been...
Very much.
Wasted on just writing those books.
Very much so. And you know, he dropped out of engineering at Edinburgh University, and he had this massive blowout with his dad, who said he was going to lay to waste everything he'd done if he didn't follow him into the profession, because they were the revered lighthouse family. And they came to this amicable negotiation that he wouldn't study English, but he would study something else which had a vocation at the end of it, which would cause him to think and analyse language, but wasn't necessarily English literature.
Is it a good time to ask whether you believe in reincarnation?
So he went back to study law. He qualified for the bar, and then newly after qualifying gave it up to be a writer. Yeah. So I'm not saying I'm the contemporary manifestation of Stevenson, but if you guys were to say it, then we could see how we'd sit.
Uncanny.
It is, isn't it?
Isn't it weird?
Yeah.
Anyway, let's get back to the museum.
So on to the Robert Louis Stevenson section of the museum.
Robert Louis Stevenson obviously was quite a big traveller, got away South Seas, and he saw a bit more of life, didn't he?
What a time that must have been, going to these places that were sort of slightly uncharted. Well, there's a quote here saying, "Youth is the time to go flashing from one end of the world to the other, both in mind and body, to try the manners of different nations." Maybe these days he would have been like a travel blogger.
Yeah.
That was in his early 20s. He would have been like on the Insta.
Yeah, definitely.
Be the kind of literary person that would just up sticks and move to Cambodia or something like that. Oh yeah, hang on, hold on a minute. So he was travelling. When he was travelling, that was actually he really struggled with his health because of the travels. When he went to America in 1879, lung hemorrhage, several lung hemorrhages, which kind of plagued him till his dying day. Well, there you go. It's interesting. In these adversities, with the makers of 2 more books, Across the Plains and The Amateur Emigrant.
For my part, I travel not to go anywhere, but to go. I travel for travel's sake. The great affair is to move, to feel the needs and hitches of our life more nearly, to come down off this feather bed of civilization and find the globe granite underfoot and strewn with cutting flints.
Hashtag travel for travel's sake. Isn't it?
It is. Something really sad about life's detritus, isn't there?
Yeah.
Like if someone was to do a museum of you, Tom, what would be in the cabinet?
I don't know. I dread to think. So his big hit, his breakthrough, Treasure Island, it's saying was originally titled The Sea Cook. I think that was probably a wise change of title. I don't know if that's just in retrospect now that we know it was called Treasure Island. Yeah. But Treasure Island to me does sound more exciting.
A bit more exciting. The Sea Cook.
Than The Sea Cook.
I think the map of an island.
It sounds like a Steven Seagal movie, possibly.
Yeah, where he's just a normal, massively ripped martial arts chef. Yeah.
As they passed to
What? He wrote Jekyll and Hyde in a period of less than a week. Oh, that's a bit rude,
seriously. With a quill and... Do you not?
Yeah, didn't batter it out on his laptop, did he?
Man.
Oh, I see. Hang on.
What?
It goes on to say, although it was in reality the result of many years' consideration. So he'd done all this thinking.
Yeah, but still.
That's a good quote as well. Stories are my refuge. I take them like opium.
Yeah.
Consider one who writes them as a sort of doctor of the mind.
That probably doesn't translate massively well into modern times, because opium obviously was very normalised.
Yeah,
It was
well,
just
that's
like
true,
a dinner party thing.
Yeah, different connotations.
But you can see when he talks about so Treasure Island came out of an imaginary island map drawn by his stepson Lloyd when they were on holiday, and then obviously he's saying, looking at that map, that the characters just kind of sprang out of it. It's just that fertile imagination, isn't it? And obviously he's fed his mind with all these trips and travels. Just at that time must have been so exotic.
Yeah.
And it
Well, there's just so much undiscovered stuff, which you can't really imagine now, can you? Yeah, it's a good time for stories.
I suppose space is probably our next one, isn't it? The moons of the solar system's planets.
Interesting you mentioned that, Tommy, considering next week's guest.
Yes.
Yeah.
The aliens out there that might be coming this way.
Anyway, say no more, we'll tease with that.
Okay.
Continue.
Right. Let's hear what Mike had to say about RLS.
You were saying before that you are a fan of Robert Louis Stevenson. He obviously
Huge,
wrote
yeah.
some quite well-known books, amongst other things. What do you think made him great? What are the things that, for you, make him great?
His extraordinary humanity. He was a remarkably anomalous man for his time. You know, I mean, he's one of the people who give the lie to the notion that, oh, well, of course, they didn't know any better then. You know, there are always people who know better, and that means anyone can. And he just accepted everybody as his equal. You know, he didn't regard himself to be above anybody or below anybody, but he just thought people were people. When he was young, you know, he was drinking and hooring and, you know, all the stuff we do on the tour. A lot of his friends were prostitutes, you know, literally his friends. He wasn't off shagging them all the time. They became his friends. He was a great egalitarian, and he hadn't a vestige of racism in him. You know, I mean, he traveled all around the world trying to get healthy. And when he ended up in the South Seas and Hawaii and Samoa and all the rest of it, these people became his friends, not his servants, his friends. There's a great photograph of Stevenson near the end, standing very tall and skinny in his riding gear with a kind of palm leaf screen behind him. And in most of the biographies you read of Stevenson, he's just standing there on his own. His best friend was standing right beside him, a Samoan chieftain, and he'd been excised from the photographs for 70, 80 years. And it's a beautiful photograph. And he's a man about whom Stevenson talks a lot in his letters. He wrote a book called A Footnote, a very big book, about 400 pages, called A Footnote to History, which was about the period when the Germans and the Americans in particular were trying to colonize the South Seas and were getting their first footholds in the islands around Samoa. And Stevenson literally went on skirmishes with the Samoans against the Germans and the Yanks, you know? He was an astonishing man. His humanity. And apart from all of that, as a writer, you have to be, if not necessarily an actor, you have to be protean, you know? And he could do that. Each of his books is written in a different style. He becomes a different writer as the necessities of the story demand. Yeah. And he's one of the first great writers of moral ambiguity. Yeah. The good character will do the bad. You know what I'm saying? All that stuff. So he's sophisticated emotionally and intellectually. And he's just the most phenomenal stylist. You know, you can open a page of any of his books and you will find some little marvel. You know, Jekyll and Hyde is full of them, absolutely full of them. And G.K. Chesterton said about Stevenson that, do you know what spillikins is? Pick-up sticks. Yeah. You know the old game Pick-up Sticks? It used to be called spillikins. And Chesterton said that Stevenson could pick up the right word on the end of his pen like a man playing spillikins. It's a lovely image. Nice. And one of my favourites is, although actually it is a slightly overwritten story, but I'm very fond of Markheim. You know the very Dostoevskian story about the guy who kills the pawnbroker? No, don't know that one. No, it's very, very good. He was reading Crime and Punishment while he wrote it, so there's a lot of Dostoevsky in it. But it is actually slightly overwritten, because I mean he could get carried away with his own brilliance, I guess, basically. But at one point, he was castigated by a critic for using the word interjected, and he's talking about this character. I think he's stopping the clock, literally stopping the clock. So he interjects his finger between the hands of the clock. And Stevenson wrote this wonderful response saying, well, you might say that, but what other word could I have used that would have expressed that idea so simply? It's the perfect word. Yeah. Anything else would be a complication of 7 or 8 different words. Yeah. In fact, there's the thing. He described himself as a mere complication of cough and bones. Nice. Isn't that good? Very nice. I just love the man. He was immensely human. Yes. His humanity is extraordinary. Yeah.
But it's interesting, isn't it? He kind of, obviously he was popular during his lifetime, but then really for sort of, I don't know, a period afterwards, his work completely sort of fell out of favour, didn't it? It wasn't...
His reputation fell away drastically for several decades.
Yeah, why was that?
Because a lot of people only read the surface of his work. Right. It's so well written that you can, this sounds a strange thing to say, but you'll know what I mean, that you can end up only reading the words.
You're just skimming across the top of it rather than getting into it. Yeah.
And I think people were missing the extraordinary sophistication of Stevenson. I mean, there's enormous emotional complexity and moral complexity.
Yeah. Treasure Island, obviously known as being a kid's book, but is very much
very much just an adult book.
And horrible things happen.
Actually, better
horrible
as an
things
adult
happen.
book. Yeah. It's a much better adult book. Don't give that book to your kids.
I think he's. I think. Final statement. I think he's still Scotland's greatest writer.
Big statement there. Big statement. You make a very good point during the tour that Scottish writing can sometimes be a bit dead men focused. Who are your kind of female Scottish writer heroines or heroes, if we're being gender balanced?
Gosh, Muriel Spark is phenomenal. She's absolutely extraordinary. Jessie Kesson, who was a traveller, and she wrote a magnificent book called The White Bird Passes, which you probably don't know. It's quite known up here, but you wouldn't have known that. So there is a massive traveller culture in Scotland. Right. We have lots. I don't know if I said this to you guys on the tour. I sometimes say it. We actually have a lot of Romany words in Scots.
Right. No.
I think you did, John, actually. I'm not sure.
Did he?
you weren't paying attention, because I remember this.
Did I?
You did.
Gadgie means bloke.
Yeah.
And one that almost rhymes with that, which is Raj, which is a great word. And you can either be a Raj, which is kind of an idiot, or oh, that's Raj, which means it's a bit mad, it's a bit, Anyway, and the wonderful word we used to use at school a lot when I was young, stoorie. Now, stoorie's Scots, but the other word isn't nash. Now, nash means to run away very quickly, and stoorie means stoor is dust. So stoorie means dusty. So stoorie nash is a dusty run. So you're really, it's like cartoon,
Right.
So if you want to run away quickly, stoorie nash. Nice. We've got all sorts. I've lost track entirely of what I was saying there. Writers, yes.
Female writers.
So Jessie Kesson. Now, because I'm massively into, you'll gather that my tastes are very old-fashioned. I'm afraid my imagination lives in the 19th century mostly. But there's a wonderful writer of ghost stories and novels called. She's usually known as Mrs. Oliphant.
Oh yes, yeah.
She was Margaret Oliphant. Oliphant. And she is a kind of precursor. I don't know if you're into that kind of fiction at all, but she'd sort of be not by long, she'd be a kind of precursor of Edith Wharton.
Right. Yeah.
Edith Wharton's wonderfully delicate, suggestive ghost stories, with a real kind of emotional history to them, so they're not just spook stories.
Yeah.
Margaret Oliphant is wonderful. I think Val McDermid is an extraordinary writer. I mean, I think she's claimed her place, with P.D. James and Ruth Rendell and all those people. There's lots, but also it's not just male versus female. It's masculine versus feminine, if we accept those terms, which I'm always very hedgy about. But one of the other things I love about Stevenson is that he's got as much feminine as masculine. So it's a very different way of looking at the world, a much more sympathetic, empathetic way.
I was going to say, it's interesting and testament and evidence of your love for Stevenson there, that even while answering that question, you diverted back to him and to mention, but I'm saying that about the modern ones, but just so you know, Stevenson was doing that.
It's because he resonates all over the place, through Scottish writing.
Yeah.
One of the first books that Ian Rankin wrote, I think it's Knots and Crosses it's called, but the template is Jekyll and Hyde. And you'll not find a modern novelist in Scotland who doesn't refer to Stevenson at some point or another.
And just tell us quickly before we end, for people listening, and you explain this on the tour, can you explain why you keep saying Jekyll and Hyde when everyone knows it's Jekyll and Hyde? Can't believe you're getting that wrong.
You're all wrong. I've written 2 plays about Stevenson. And also, I first was frightened by Jekyll and Hyde when I was 6 years old. And my mother had the Folio Society edition with the illustrations by Mervyn Peake. And I opened the book by mistake at the first involuntary transformation back into Hyde. And Peake's drawing is just a gnarled hand hanging out the side of a bed. And it's gave me nightmares for years. Anyway, so I've lived with Stevenson most of my life. And obviously when I began to write about him, I read everything, every single biography. And I discovered this letter that he'd written to an American journalist.
Yeah.
He was about to make his first visit to the States. And this American journalist actually wrote, telling him that in New York Harbor, the pilots, the pilot boats, the people on the pilot boats, were already calling each other Jekyll and Hyde and things like that. But the journalist wanted to know how, because this was the great question for everybody, how the name was pronounced. And Stevenson wrote back and said, almost what I say on the tour. I wanted the rhyme. It's Jekyll. I wanted the rhyme. Hide and seek, Jekyll and hide. And also, it's Gertrude Jekyll. Have you heard of Gertrude Jekyll? Look her up. That's Jekyll. And if it were Jekyll, it would be Jeck, which some people sometimes do, actually. But no, Jekyll and Hyde is what he wanted. And I think we should do him the courtesy of saying it the right way.
We should. Yeah. What do you have for us then as a way of a parting offering?
Well, I've got to either a wonderful poem by Hugh McDermid, of who we do one on the tour, or maybe better, because you know about McDermid from the tour, although it's a beautiful... I'll tell you about McDermid and then I'll read this one.
Okay.
The McDermid one is called The Water Gaw. Watergaw. Okay? Water Gaw. And I think Scots is the only language that has a word for this. It's a broken rainbow. You know, a partial rainbow. You know, sometimes you see a fragment of a rainbow sort of behind the rain. So that's what a water gaw is. And he describes this, but it's so full of dialect words. And also McDermid writes what we call synthetic Scots. It's basically dictionary Scots.
Right.
So there's a lot more difficult words kind of crammed in, just because they're great words, than you would naturally use. So it's actually quite a tricky one to understand. But no, the one I want to do, just for a slightly different move, this poem is called The Twa Corbies. Have you heard of it?
No.
Right. It's available in different dialects, usually from the north of England as well, which is kind of why I've chosen it. And a corby is a raven. In Scots, a craw is a crow, but a corby, closely cognate with corvid and all that kind of thing. And this is an old poem that, well, I'll read it to you. As I was walking all alane, I heard twa corbies making a main. The tane until the tither say, "What's we gang and dine the day?" In behind yon old failed dyke, I wot there lies a new slain knight, and naebody kens that he lies there, but his hawk, his hound, and lady fair. His hound is to the hunting gane, his hawk to fetch the wild fowl hame. His lady's ta'en another mate, so we may mak our dinner swait. Ye'll sit on his white horse bane, and I'll pike out his bonny blue een. Wi' ae lock o' his gowden hair, we'll theek our nest when it grows bare. Mony a one for him maks main, but nane shall ken what he is gain. O'er his white banes, when they are bare, the wind shall blaw for evermore.
Well, that's a beautiful place to end.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. We love a poem about death.
Pecking out the eyes of an old knight.
and we really enjoyed that talk.
Well, thanks very much, guys. If you're up again, say hello.
Will
Keep
do.
in touch, all the rest of it.
Mike, lovely chatting.
Yeah, really, really,
Cheers,
really
guys.
appreciate
Thanks
it.
a lot.
Okay, bye-bye.
Cheers. There we go, Tom. Do you feel like you have got a slightly better grasp of some big Scottish writers now?
Do you know what? I actually genuinely do, John.
Yeah, me too, to be fair. I learned a heck of a lot on our little field trip.
Yeah. Although I think I still feel like there's a gaping chasm in my knowledge of Sir Walter Scott.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, I think of the big lads, he's definitely the one that I think came up least in conversation.
Yeah, he did.
And there didn't seem to be as much in the museum.
He's still considered a literary behemoth, though, and his legacy is literally woven into the very fabric of the city of Edinburgh.
The railway station.
Yep, there's the railway station, named after his Waverley novels. But not only that, the city's oldest football team, Heart of Midlothian, influenced by the novel of the same name.
Really?
Yeah, fact. Yeah,
Not know that.
and the Scott Monument on Princes Street is the second largest monument to a writer in the world.
Right. What is the first?
Well, the first is actually the entire Isle of Wight. John, I don't know if you know this. Not a lot of people don't know this. But the entire island of the Isle of Wight didn't exist before, I think it was like 1857, 1858. And that was built by the Victorians as a tourist attraction. So while the Industrial Revolution was taking place, obviously there's a lot of coal mines, they built the London Underground, all that kind of stuff. So they take all the waste, all the soil out of there, and they were dumping it off the coast of Southampton. And then they had let's put some grass on top of it and stuff.
Wow.
And it was all done in honour of the poet laureate Alfred Lord Tennyson. So it was
Is that right?
Yeah, so it's just a big monument to him.
I've never heard. Isn't that weird that I'd never heard that before?
Yeah, but more facts.
All these years I've lived in this country.
Although
Wow.
some people would have you believe that that's not true, and the biggest
Some people,
monument
just
is
a
actually
few people.
There's some naysayers that
Just
don't believe that.
The odd one or
Honestly.
two people who say
People
that's...
that say, we didn't land on the moon, the Earth's flat, and the Isle of Wight is actually just a normal
Conspiracy
island.
theorists.
Crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, sorry, go on. What is the real one?
Some people say it is the Jose Martini Monument in Havana. That's the number one biggest one. So,
Hey, maybe we should go there next.
to the Isle of Wight?
No, Cuba.
Cuba.
Come on.
Yeah. So anyway, do we actually know anything about Sir Walter Scott? Not that anyone will believe anything we say anymore after that last bit, but you know.
True.
What do we know about Sir Walter Scott?
Not loads, but we know he was revered for his poetry during his time, but he did also write his novels anonymously.
Did he? I didn't know that. Why was that?
I don't really know, but probably several reasons. He possibly wanted to see how they were received to begin with. I think you have to sort of remember that novel writing wasn't actually considered a particularly honourable profession at the time.
Yeah, true.
And he was a clerk for the Scottish Supreme Court, so it might have been, a little bit frowned upon.
Yeah.
And he was also being swamped by fans at the time.
On top of all that, I bet the mystery of who wrote them probably didn't hurt the sales figures as well.
Yeah. Could have been a clever little sales trick.
Yeah.
But seeing as Christmas is round the corner, do you want a tiny bit of Marmion? It's quite a long historical romance published in 1808.
You're not selling it to me, if I'm honest.
But this is only a little extract,
okay.
So that's all right. But this, I used to read this out at Keats's house when I used to do the...
What?
Do you remember me telling you about the poetry readings I used to do there at Christmas?
No.
Oh, well, I did. And
were you invited? Or did you just...
Just turned up. Just started blethering.
Well, so what were you doing?
I used to do these poetry readings at Keats's house. Like a sort of... They were almost like lectures with Dr. Gregory Dart.
Right.
We used to do them.
God, I mean, that sounds horrendously boring, but I'm sure it wasn't.
It was amazing and super Christmassy, and we had wassail, whatever, that you drink.
Yeah.
And there'd be parlour games and things.
Lovely.
It was great.
Lovely.
Yeah, we used to get a really big crowd. It used to be sellout every year.
Brilliant.
I don't know if they still do it, but anyway, yeah, it was really good.
Well, let's get us. I'm feeling the Christmas spirit now you said all that. Yeah, go on then.
Yeah. And well our Christian sires of old loved when the year its course had rolled and brought blithe Christmas back again with all his hospitable train, domestic and religious rite, gave honour to the holy night. On Christmas Eve the bells were rung, on Christmas Eve the Mass was sung. The damsel donned her kirtle sheen, the hall was dressed with holly green, forth to the wood did merry men go to gather in the mistletoe. Then opened wide the baron's hall, to vassal, tenant, serf and all, power laid his rod of rule aside, and ceremony doffed his pride. The heir with roses in his shoes that night might village partner choose. The fire, with well-dried logs supplied, went roaring up the chimney wide, the huge hall table's oaken face, scrubbed till it shone, the day to grace, bore then upon its massive board no mark to part the squire and lord. The wassail round, in good brown bowls, garnished with ribbons, blithely trolls. There the huge sirloin reeked, hard by plum porridge stood, and Christmas pie, nor failed old Scotland to produce, at such high tide, her savoury goose. Then came the merrymakers in, and carols roared with blithesome din. If unmelodious was the song, it was a hearty note and strong. England was merry England when old Christmas brought his sports again. 'Twas Christmas broached the mightiest ale, 'twas Christmas told the merriest tale. A Christmas gambol oft could cheer the poor man's heart through half the year. See, ain't that Christmassy?
Yeah.
It's like a sort of uber idyllic Christmas scene, isn't it? It's kind of slightly verging on the sentimental. I think he could sometimes be a little bit nostalgic, Scott.
I mean, to be fair, it's Christmas. If you can't do that at Christmas, when can you?
Well, that is true.
I wonder how nostalgic it was. When it was, whether he was. Obviously, that's our nostalgia would cast back to that kind of Victorian Christmas.
Yeah, exactly.
As something special. So whether he was doing the same because it never really existed, or whether
Possibly.
or whether he was just reporting oh, this is how we have a lovely Christmas.
Yeah, sort of idealised version that
knows?
still kind of
Yeah.
hangs on. Yeah, I think that might be true. But yes, that, ladies and gentlemen, was our very scant, lightweight look at the Scottish giants. But what I'm hoping is that we've maybe inspired you to have a look at their works again. There is genuinely some amazing stuff of theirs out there. And obviously most of the poetry you can find online. And most of them have like helpful translations of any Scots words as well. And of course, the works of Stevenson still more than holds up. And you can download most old novels for next to nothing on your ebook as well. So we would hugely recommend you go and do that.
Yeah, well, that's obviously been very eduformative, hasn't it, for everyone?
It really, really has.
And that brings us 2/3 of the way through our Scottish Odyssey. Scottish Odyssey. Scottish Odyssey.
Do you want one more drink? Or one for the road?
Probably all right, to be honest. But that does bring us 2/3 of the way through our Scottish Odyssey. The final stage of which we got for you next week in the last episode of the season.
Yeah, we had a chat with Doug Johnston in a pub and had a brilliant chat about his writing and not getting stuck in a rut genre-wise, and about making very brave career choices, and what the one top tip is to become a successful writer.
Now that, I'm telling you now, that is a tip worth hanging around for.
It's true. It really is. It's a tip that is kind of as simple as it could possibly be as well.
It is. It's one of actually doing it. It's one of those that actually doing it might be a bit more tricky, but it is.
It's true.
It is a brilliant single tip.
But we'll say no more. Don't miss that next week.
So yeah, all that's left for us to say is thanks again to Scrivener for their support, or Scrivener as it is in this episode.
What? I don't understand the big high. What's the high voice for?
I don't know.
It's just really
high.
Very excitable Scottish person.
We speak very highly of Scrivener. Thank you for their support as always. They may be reconsidering about now. But, yeah.
Yes, thank you, Scrivener. Thank you very much for putting up with us. And a huge thanks to Mike Daviot as well for his time and his knowledge.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
to Dewi on the tour as well.
Yeah.
They were both brilliant.
And to all the other people we met while we were there as well.
Yeah, including all the folk we met at the Writers HQ Retreat Day.
Oh, yeah, bloody hell, we hadn't even mentioned that, have we?
No.
Yeah.
No, I think maybe that's something we keep up our sleeve for next season, because we talked to some of the writers there as well, and that was lovely.
Great idea, because it was a really good day, that, wasn't it? We had a great time.
Yeah, just like the unlimited Danish pastries, Tom, I think that was probably what you're talking about.
Yeah, and?
Right, okay, we will see you next week for our chat with Doug Johnston.
See you then.
Bye.
Hello.
Hello.
Where's everybody gone?